Oh, oh. It wasn't me. Whoa, that's loud. And echoey. It's like we're in a cave. Just kidding. What's up? How you guys doing? That's it? How you guys doing? All right, right on. Cool. Okay, hold on. It's kind of hot. So my message tonight, I came up with a title, Dar. It's what do you see? And it's a lot of times we kind of take what we see for granted. And when you get older, you start to develop different ways of seeing, right? Like when you're in a relationship with your friends, you look at things differently. When you're dealing with your kids, you look at things differently. When you're dealing with your parents, you look at things differently. When you're at church, you look at things differently. And that's both good and bad, because ultimately we're supposed to look at things through our spiritual eyes, through our discerning eyes, through God's eyes, right? That's what our kind of ultimate Christian vision is supposed to be. And I have a quote here from Helen Keller. How many know Helen Keller was blind? Okay, just thought I'd let you guys know that. She said, "The only thing worse than being blind is having sight but no vision." And for a while, we had a thing out in front of in the lobby of the church, and it's in the Bible, and it says, "Where my people perish for lack of vision." And like, you ever looked at clouds with someone, and you see something, you're trying to get them to see it, and they're just like not getting it, and you're like, "How do you not see that? Like, it's right there in front of you." Right? Like, I mean, we're both looking at the same cloud, right? There's like only one cloud in the sky. I'm telling you it looks like this, and you're telling me no. And we like struggle to get people to see our way, right? Like, it drives us crazy when people don't see our way. That's like one of the biggest causes of arguments anywhere, in whatever relationship it is, because two different people saw the same thing two different ways. And when you don't have like God's vision on things, like the way God sees things in your life is like an utter mess. Like you look at everything, and all you can focus on is all the negative, is everything that's going wrong, everything that's not working, like how it's falling apart, not perhaps how God is trying to help you put it together or keep it together. And what you focus on, what you see, is that, like, what you look for is that what you end up seeing. Right? Because what is in our hearts, that's how we perceive things. Pastor did a whole, it was like 13, 14 weeks on perception. And 19, I lose count back there. And for me, it's not something he's never talked about before, but it was like extremely pun intended, eye-opening, right? And I was like that whole, oh my gosh, like, trust me, it's been a while since one of the pastor's like messages has like, I mean, they hit home every time, but I mean, when the ones that hit home, you're like, oh, like week after week, you're just like, oh my God, I thought I just needed a little bit of it. I needed all 19 weeks. See, I only thought there was 14 because I probably blocked out 5 of them because there were 2, I couldn't handle it, right? That's why I was like, I was only 14. No. Because it's when you're called, and he said this, when you're called on the truth, there's no denying it, and it hurts, right? And yet we run away from that, but that's a good thing. Because what that hurt is it's cutting out that garbage you've been holding on to, right? Like, you don't go into surgery, they give you painkillers for a reason, because it hurts, right? Like, if they have to go in and remove like some type of abscess or something, they give you painkillers because they know it's gonna hurt. But afterwards, what happens? It hurts for a little bit because it's healing, right? But eventually, it doesn't hurt anymore. The problem is we're about to go into surgery, and then we're like, forget it, I changed my mind. I want to hold on to it because I'm comfortable with this pain, because I know how to live with the pain. I know how to deal with the pain. I don't want the pain, but I don't know how to not live without it because I've had it for so long, right? That's how that's like our biggest problem is we always look at, okay, how good can my life be with all the bad stuff that's in it? Like, how can I make the best out of a terrible situation? No, what? I can't say I don't ever, that's not true, but I try not to ever look at, okay, this kind of sucks in my life, but it's not that bad. No, if something's not right in my life, I admit to it. I gotta own up to it, because then all I'm gonna do is, as I continue to get older and grow, and more things are gonna develop and compound on that thing that's wrong, right? Like whatever it is. And then, you know how we talk about all the time in here, having a weak foundation? That's what that is. That's a weak foundation, because you built it on something that was never solid and never true and never sound and never good to begin with. And you're trying to learn all these things. You're trying to come here and it's not working for you because you're still paying attention to what's wrong. You're still paying attention to, what did I do? I can't get this. Like, pastor doesn't have this problem, that's why he can get it. No. Pastor probably maybe had the problem or something else, but he let God take care of it. That's the difference between him and you. That's seriously the only difference between pastor and us, is that he lets God take control and we don't. Right. Honestly. And I can tell you that for a fact, because I've been in that position where I didn't let God take control. But when I learned to let him take control, when I learned to see his way of things and not try and put my own perspective on it, not try and look at it with my, mortal human eyes, my fleshly eyes, because that's our problem. We, as a species, rely on our vision more than anything, right? Like, if you go deaf, I can still, right, that's why we can play charades, because you just need to see me, right? If you lose your hands, there's people that can live without hands. There's people that can live without feet. But if you lose your sight, that's like, how do you survive anymore? Right? You can't see anything. I mean, just imagine that. Try walking around for 5 minutes with your eyes closed, right? I mean, it's bad enough when we try and walk around at night with the lights off. And we know where things are in our house. I know the fridge is right there, so I'm just gonna, I do it. My dad's the worst at it. I mean, the lights could be on and he won't see it. But that's a different story. Don't laugh too hard, because he always kept telling me it's gonna happen to you. It's starting to happen to me. It just doesn't happen at home, so it's all good. It just happens outside, so I get away with it. No, but seriously, we focus on what's in front of us. And that's called looking at the small picture. You don't ever see the big picture, right? Because if you guys have ever been to a museum, what do you see? Or even if you've never been to a museum, but you've seen people at a museum, in movies, what do they usually do when they're looking at a piece of art? They do this, right? They step back to take the whole thing in, because if they're just here, looking at this little piece, they're not gonna know what exactly the whole picture is supposed to be, right? It's, you take a step back and you see the whole thing, and then you can focus on the little pieces, the smaller pieces. You can dive in and start breaking it down. But if you don't have a general understanding of what is going on, you're gonna be trying to rationalize one little part of it that you don't understand. It's like me looking at cars. I'd be that can fit in there, but it's probably not supposed to go there. And my door is gonna end up upside down, right? It doesn't work like that. Me making movies, I have to know what the whole movie is before I go in and do every little part, right? If you're ever gonna paint something, if you're ever gonna draw something, if you're ever gonna do anything, you wanna know your beginning and your end, and then you figure out all the middle, right? We don't ever know, we barely know the beginning, and we sure as heck don't know what the end is. Because we don't take the time to find out. We don't take the time to get in the Word like we're supposed to and find out. From the very beginning, in Genesis, the Bible talks about when Eve took the apple, it said she looked at it and saw that it was good. The devil uses what you see more than anything to take advantage of you. And you know why? Because we trust like that. If we see it, we assume it's real. That's why we look at pictures online and we think they're real. right? And people make a living off of making fake pictures, making you think that they're real. I mean, think about that. There's people that make a life off of deceiving other people. And then we're supposed to be the ones that are supposed to bring the truth, yet we're more moved by the deception than the truth. I mean, I'm telling you, that perception message was really digging in my brain. It got me thinking. And it's so easy to be misled by something you see. With guys, a pretty girl walks by. I mean, you could be saving a life. I guarantee you, there's probably, what are they called? I don't know. Yeah, those people in the medical ambulances. EMTs. They'd probably be saving a life, and some pretty girl walks by, he'd be like, even if it's 5 seconds, you might have killed that person because you wanted to look for 5 seconds. Like, what the heck, man? I'm here dying. You're supposed to be giving me CPR, and you're... Yeah, he's good. You know, come on, right? But it's so easy. I mean, that's what we tell our kids all the time, right? Look at me. Pay attention, right? Because when you're trying to correct them, then they start doing this. Right? Start looking around. Look at me, right? All the time. Look at me. Pay attention. But we don't pay attention, right? I mean, we do it in church. I sit back there. I see when heads aren't like, I'll show you what a listening head looks like. I'll show you what a non-listening head looks like. I see that more than I see heads facing forward. You want to fake it? Just look at the pretty trees on the wall. Then I won't know that you're not paying attention, right? Because I'm telling you, it's so easy to distract ourselves. That's why a lot of times, this is why you hear, for me, this is why I like silent films, because it forces you to pay attention. Or old movies, because the dialogue isn't easy. You have to watch what they're doing and what they're saying, right? But we lost that because this generation is you need to get in 15 seconds or less and then you move on. You need to see everything you see in 15 seconds or less and move on. And then we try and take that approach when it comes to God. Let me get my scripture of the day, thanks to the El Shaddai Bible app, the El Shaddai Ministries app. Cool, scripture of the day. Remove, swipe to the left, right? Hey, I've done it a couple times. I'm not up here saying you guys are the only ones that do it. But if I do it, I know you do it. So, see how that works? But we don't give God the time we're supposed to give him. And we don't keep our eyes focused on God. If you turn your Bibles to Genesis 15, this is when God is talking with Abraham about, this is before he's had his son, and Abraham's trying to have an argument with God, basically. And starting at let's start at verse 2. And Abram said, Lord, what can you give me, since I am going on from this world childless, and he who shall be the owner and heir of my house is steward Eliezer of Damascus? And Abraham continued, look, you have given me no child. A servant born in my house is my heir. He straight up tried to tell God, hey, look, what you didn't give me yet. God promised him a child, and then he says, look, you didn't give me no child. God wasn't paying attention. Oh yeah, I forgot. You were item 50 on my list, and I just skipped it. My bad, Abram. Here's your kid. Right? Because Abram lost sight of what God told him, that I will give you a child. There's your end. His beginning is stay committed to God, do what he's supposed to do, right? But he lost sight of the end. He just was I don't see the end yet, so maybe it's not coming, right? He starts doubting because he believed what he saw in front of him. He believed what he saw at the present. And that is that's why everything we pray for that doesn't happen, that's why. Because that shows lack of faith, right? Because it's easy to believe something that you can see, but it proves your faith when you believe something you don't see. And you know what that shows? When you when you believe what you see in front of you, that's telling God that I don't believe you can handle this situation. That's telling God that I don't trust in what you're going to do for me. That's telling God that I don't even believe what it is you say, what it is I hear from church, because God doesn't live. God lives like outside of time, right? And yet we try and make God live in time. Right. I look at it this way. God's unpredictable, right? He's predictably unpredictable. For us, it's unpredictable. That's how we have to define it, because like his thinking is outside of our thinking, right? And for us, it's unpredictable. It seems like it comes at the most random time possible, yet somehow every little thing works out. That's not random. To us, it's random because it doesn't make sense, because we're trying to look at it with our fleshly eyes, not with our spiritual eyes. Where our spirit isn't discerning what God is giving us. We're not listening to the Spirit's communicating, right? We're trying to pray for it and then go about our day and just hope that, when we turn the corner, we get what we're asking for. That's not how it works. You have to, keep your eyes on the prize, right? If you're running a marathon and you're at the start, can you see the finish? No. But the people who run with their heads up usually end up the ones at the finish line faster than ones who run with their head down, or the ones who run with their head to the left, looking at who's faster than them or who's slower than them. The people that are winning are the ones that are, the prize is in front of me, I'm looking till I see it. And then when they see it, you know how they get that like boost of energy at the end? You're like, where the heck did that come from? You just ran like 12 miles and now you sprinting like, what is this, right? Because they kept their eyes on the prize, because their focus was always right. Because what they saw was not around them, it was, where am I going? Where am I going to end up? And we like to say we do that, and we like to say, because it sounds cool, right? It sounds inspirational. It makes you sound like a good Christian. But if you're not living it, it's evident. It's evident. And every one of us has done that. Every one of us has said it and not lived it. But do you repeat that? Or do you realize and recognize and see that you did that, take ownership of it, repent and move on, and then do it right the next time? Right? Because that's what Pastor was talking about Sunday when he was talking about his crisis. He says he thought he was over it. Turns out he wasn't. But he prayed and made a determination next time he's going to handle it right. That's what we have to do. Most of us just give up when we screw up one time. Right? We're like, great. How can I come back from this? I was barely qualified to begin with. Now I'm for sure not qualified, because what are we looking at? We're looking at the present situation. We're looking at the position we put ourselves in, rather than where is God going to take us from here? Where God wants to put us. Because that's the thing. God said he wants to hold us on a pedestal and show us off to the world as a proud father, look at my faithful servants. That's what he wants to do. And yet we don't try and reach that position. We just want to stay content with not going anywhere. Because, let's face it, usually the fastest person in a race is usually running by themselves, right? But I don't think they care. They didn't get in a race to run with other people. They got in a race to be the one at the end with the prize. Because you can have 500 friends, and if they all lose, then you're just a bunch of losers, right? Think about it this way. If all those people in a marathon decided, hey, let's be smart, let's all get first place, we'll run in a straight line at the same pace, we'll cross at the same time, we all got to share, right? There's going to be one person that doesn't want to do that. And you got to be that one person that isn't satisfied with being like everyone else. Because that's what God called us to be. It's not, oh, I'm better than you. It's, you want to be where I'm at. I'm supposed to be an inspiration. Because that's why we look at athletes that are the best at something. They are the ones who inspire us, not the ones, the ones on the team are essential, totally. But the ones who are the superstars, those are the ones we pay attention to. Because those are the ones who put the extra effort, the extra drive, the extra whatever to be at the top, to be listed number one. It's great to be on a list, but if you're at the top, something just feels good about it. Even if it's something minuscule. Even if, I know there's kids that probably have in school, when you're called alphabetical order, it always feels nice to get called first. I usually miss my name because I'm down at P. So I'm not even paying attention. And then they're like, Frederick, plus I don't go by Frederick. So then Frederick Price. I'm not even paying attention, right? Because that's not what I'm focused on, right? Because again, I'm distracted. I'm not paying attention to what I should be paying attention to. Our whole life is filled with distractions. And we have to learn how to shut them out. And that's what this is right here. In Genesis 15, And behold, the word of the Lord came to him, saying, this man shall not be your heir, but he who shall come from your own body shall be your heir. And he brought him outside his tent into the starlight. What did God do? He took away the distraction of, this is Abram in his tent. He's looking at his wife. He's looking at some kid who's who's like his kid, but it's not the kid God promised him. He's like, you still haven't given me a son. God said, come here, come outside. So he can't see them. And he says, look up. What does that do? The only thing in the sky is the sky and the stars. And then God says, your children will be as countless as the stars. Your offspring will be as countless as the stars. He changed what he was looking at, right? And a lot of times we need that. We need someone to say, stop, right? Because you know how, okay, for you parents out there, when your kids start beating themselves up because they do something wrong, they're looking at what they did wrong, whatever, like what do? You say, no, come here, right? You remove them, you try and remove them and the situation. You try and single them out and you say, listen to me, look at me, right? And you try and comfort them, you try and reassure them, you try and tell them this doesn't matter. And yet, we turn around and we beat ourselves up over the same stuff, right? Why do you think your kid has a hard time believing you when you say it doesn't matter? Right? I mean, we don't think about that. Our kids pay attention because our kids can't communicate at our level yet. So all they have to do is watch us. And they watch and they reciprocate. So if you want your kid to, believe what it is we're doing at church and believe what we're preaching about here and believe these principles that we're teaching, then you should probably start getting a hold of them and paying attention so that they pay attention. Amen. Because I don't care how corny your kid thinks you are, whatever you like, deep down inside of them, they like a little bit. They care about a little bit because they at least know, oh, my dad likes that, my mom likes that, right? But if you're not giving them anything to pay attention to, anything worth paying attention to, that's why they leave, because they go and find something worth paying attention to them, because you didn't give them something worth paying attention to, their spirit never got built up. And that way, when they come here and the word is being preached, they don't care. They're paying attention to something else because it's not important to them, right? Trust me, this is why I got kicked out of youth. It wasn't because of my attitude. It was because of my attitude, but it wasn't because I was saying things, or it was because I didn't care about being there. I didn't care about what was being taught. And like it or not, pastor knew that, and so he removed me. He removed the distraction so that other kids wouldn't get distracted. Because if you know me, I'm a distraction, good or bad. I'm a distraction. I can't not sit in a corner somewhere and blend in. It doesn't work. I've tried it. It doesn't happen. People notice me. So, and you got to realize this too. People notice you whether you think they notice you or not. And you have to always be on your game 100% of the time, right? We live in a world that scrutinizes celebrities, right? That's half of TV, is watching famous people do famous people stuff, right? And we try and judge them and criticize them and pay attention to them. And it's why? What are they doing for your life that God's not? Right? Because they're not giving you any life advice. If you're taking life advice from them, please stop. Please. We don't need little versions of them running around. I'm just saying, right? Your life advice should come from the Bible, straight up. Because, it's ridiculous. This book, written thousands of years ago, can solve your problems of today, right? If that doesn't tell you that this book is, for lack of a, if it's, right? Then I don't know any other book that does that. I don't care what people say about classic novels, but Charles Dickens doesn't mean anything to me right now. It's not going to do anything for me, right? I might have to read it for school and write a paper on it and see oh yeah, it was great literature, but it's not changing my life. Right. And the Bible is the only book that's going to do that. And what's also cool about the Bible is you think okay, I read it once, I'm never going to read it again. You know how many times Pastor uses one scripture for 15 different things? Right? It makes my job easy in the back because I don't have to retype them in. So I like when he does that. When he gives me new scriptures, I'm like, dang it, that's heck of work, right? But it's cool because you're dang, I didn't, usually when someone says one thing, the most it can mean is two different things, right? You can take it in a good way, you can take it in a bad way. That's pretty much it. we're kind of, like simple like that. God's not simple, right? I mean, Vanessa talks about this all the time, like wanting to know the complexities of God, right? And we should strive to like know that, and we should pay attention to it, because you miss so many things. That's why it irritates me, like when I watch movies with people that don't watch movies, because then they get mad, and then they try and get mad at me, like, how'd you notice that? Because I watched the dang thing. Like, I don't get why you go to the movies to do this. Like, to close your eyes, fall asleep, look over here, talk to your friends. Like, why don't you just do that at home? Like, why did you pay $15 to go to the movies, right, to sit in a dark room for 2 hours where you can go home and do it for free and save on your energy bill? It don't make any sense to me. It absolutely no sense. You know why? Because we want distraction. That's why. Because we can't sit at home alone, because we know when we're home alone, we got nothing else to think about except God talking to you. And you don't want to hear it. So you're like, let me go to the movies real quick. Let me just drown that out. Let me ignore that. All right, it's funny. Usually, I'm always listening to the radio in the car, like 90% of the time. But I've started to less, just to like see what happens when I sit quietly and just, because if I got to drive from like my house to San Francisco, that's anywhere between like 45 minutes to 2 hours, depending on the idiots on the road. And I'm like, that's a lot of time. Like, that's a lot of quiet time I could get in. So I just sit and I think, and it's nice. And usually, like, I don't like quiet, just because like it's nice to have noise going on. But man, when I started doing it, started opening my eyes to stuff, started paying attention more, right? And what it helped me understand was I'm 22. I'm 22, and I don't have the distractions of a relationship. Woohoo! I don't have the distractions of I have a job, but it's like the easiest job. I deliver food. I don't have to talk to anyone. I just walk into their office and I walk right back out. It's quiet time. And I get to have free food too, so it's nice, right? It's like a win-win-win, right? And I'm gonna be finishing school, so I don't have that distraction. And then I don't consider church a distraction. The only distraction really is like my family and friends. And not that, don't take that the wrong way, they're a distraction, but I guarantee you, Pastor would agree with me, your family and friends can be a distraction, okay? So don't be like, I need to shut them out completely because you're distracting me from God. No, I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is, are you putting them over God? Then they're a distraction. That's what I'm saying, okay? Don't twist my words. Don't be like, teenagers don't go home and be like, Freddie said I don't have to talk to you because you're a distraction. Freddie said, you're a distraction for me and God, so leave me alone, Mom. No, I didn't say that. Talk to your mom. Talk about God with your mom. Good conversation. And all throughout the Bible, we see different accounts of people, of dealing with how people see things. When Samuel went to go anoint the new king, right, to anoint David, when Jesse brought his kids before him, he brought everyone but David because he looked at David and said, he's too little, he's too pretty, he's not going to be a king, right? And so that's messed up. You think about that, right? Like, you teenagers with parent issues, like, if you're about to your family gets selected to possibly be anointed king and they tell you to stay in your room, like, think about how messed up that is, right? He didn't even tell him to stay in his room. He was like out in the field. He said, don't go get him. Just leave him out there, right? Like, that's wrong. That's dirty, right? And Samuel goes to the first son, and then he's like, surely this has to be the guy. And God says, no, don't look at the outward character of the man. Look at the inward character. He says, look at the heart, because that's what I look at. That's what God judges you by, is your heart, by your inner character, right? And then finally they go through all the sons. He says, you have anyone else? He's like, oh, I got, David outside. He's not really my son, though. No, he didn't say that. But he had to try to, like, play it off like he doesn't count as a son, right? Like, he's not that important. He just takes care of the sheep, right? Like, no one's going to be a king who takes care of sheep. And then God speaks to him and says, that's the one I've called, right? And if we look at like when Moses came to deliver the Israelites, God, the first like couple of plagues, God did stuff that was showing his power to Pharaoh to get him to let the Israelites go. And what did he do? Pharaoh had his magicians, his people who work with sleight of hand and stuff that makes you think you're seeing cool stuff, try and match up with the miracles of God, match up with what God was doing to try and convince people, oh, what they're doing isn't that powerful. If we can do it too, if I can make you see it, then it's not that powerful. Then what happened when they got the plague like 5? They couldn't do it anymore. Because deception can only go so far. You can only deceive people for so long. You ever try to lie to someone about yourself? You know, like, oh yeah, my uncle is like Michael Jordan, right? And then that person happens to meet Michael Jordan and be like, you ever met this person? Never heard of him in my life, right? Like you could make everyone believe for so long a certain lie, but when it always is gonna come out. And then we're surprised when it happens. And it's like, we try and make people believe we go to church and make people believe we're Christians. And then when they find out we're not really living like that, we try and be like, whoa, where'd that come from? I didn't even really know that person. We talked like one time, right? You got caught because you weren't paying attention to what you were supposed to pay attention to. Your focus changed. What you saw was not what God saw. Because if you saw what God saw, then you'd be living to do what God called you to do. Right? That's why, I mean, it's funny because when like pastor does something in the church, it never surprises me. It's funny when I see people get surprised because to me, I expect it because I know why pastor's doing it. He's not doing it because like he got bored. He's doing it because God called him to do it. Right. Because God called him to change it up because something new is going to happen. And we always get amazed when we see God move when we should be expecting that to happen every single time, right? You know why? Because we don't look for God to move, right? God's waiting for us to look for him to move so he can move. Because if we're not paying attention to it, then even if he did move, it'd pass right over us, we'd have no idea. And that's why when we have those like praise and worship sessions that are like super spirit filled and super on fire all the time, like that should be happening every single time. Right. And the reason it doesn't is because some people come in and they just don't want it to happen. They're just not looking for it to happen. They're like, please don't let me sweat today. Like, don't let me get excited. I just put on a new shirt. All right. And I mean, it happens to me every single time. I know like when I put on like my good clothes, like it's about to get crazy at church. I can't wear them every single time because I only have like 3 outfits and I can't repeat. Like, because then you guys be like, Freddie, why are you only wearing the same clothes? That's kind of nasty. You know, like, because I'm trying to get God to move. You need to relax, right? Like, I'm wearing my good pants because God's about to move. So pay attention, right? But they're going to be like, why are you always wearing the same pants? Like, because I told you, God's trying to move. But I'm serious, it happens every time. Ask Dar. Every time I wear the most like hot clothes, we go crazy in the back. And I'm like, dang it. Again, every time. I'm just hoping, you know, I'm like, wait till the summer and I can start wearing tank tops again. It'd be nice. Because I just can't wear them in the winter because for different reasons. But anyways, like I'm saying, we don't expect God to move. We don't look for God to move, and therefore he doesn't. And we never see him move in our life because we're not looking for it. And I can't tell you the risk, like such bad risk that is not looking for God to move in your life and then trying to have a relationship with God, right? That's like, I don't know, having like an online girlfriend you never see. Like, how are you going to have a relationship with, you never even seen that person, and you're like, dang, we're in love. Like, when she sends me that heart emoji, I just know it. Like, right there, I can feel it. Right? You never even seen her. It could be a dude. I mean, maybe. Why not? Right? Hey, even if it is, whatever. I'm just saying. But, like, we're never looking for God. And oh my gosh. Like, ever since I'm telling you, when Pastor had his message on perception, I was like, dang, like I stopped looking like consistently. Yeah. And when you stop looking consistently, it's not just you that suffers because of it. You're letting other people down. Because when you don't have the focus, how are you going to show someone else, right? Because if you're paying, like that's usually what happens, right? Like whatever we're paying attention to, whatever has our interest at the moment, that's what we tell other people about. You ever think about that? Yeah. That, you know, like you see a new movie and it's like really cool, you want to go tell everyone about it? Or you like hear a new song, you want to go tell everyone about it? Or, you know, like whatever it is, whatever has your attention at the moment, that's what you tell people about. And so like, what's the percentage of you telling people about God versus you telling people about other stuff, right? Like you might want to think about that. If it's like, if it's 50-50, that's all right. But you might want to get it higher. It would be more like 90-10, right? Because you can use that 10% and still throw in some God with it. It should be 100% of the time, but like for you guys to get it, like 90-10. I'll give you 90-10, but it should be 100%. Start with 90-10 though. Do 90-10, then get to 100. Because I'm not at 100 yet. I can't lie, because I get distracted. But if I'm aware that I'm getting distracted, then I know I can stop. And that's like, I would tell this to the youth all the time, that the world is counting on you to be distracted, to not pay attention, because that's how, the world is basically out to get one over on you. You gotta think about that. Like, we live in a world of deception, and that's what deception does, is it's meant to get one over on you. It's meant to get you to believe something else other than what you believe, or what you say you believe. And we have to constantly be aware of that. The Bible always talks about constantly being aware, constantly checking, and constantly being discerners of people and their spirits and everything like that, because if we're not, then we're easily swayed, because it goes all the way back to the beginning. Eve was easily swayed. She looked at a piece of fruit. Like, think about that. Food, the look of food screwed us up. Like, for me, that hurts, because food is nice, right? And sometimes you just gotta, I can't look at you, right? But the world relies on and counts on us to not pay attention. And we can't afford to do that, because if we want our relationship with God to grow, we have to help other people get a relationship with God. Because if that's how your relationship grows, is by learning how to be a disciple, by reading his word, by praising him, and that builds you up, because if you look at it this way, like, you're always ready for the next test God's going to give you of how am I going to show God in my life? How is God going to show himself through me? But if you only got the same stuff, like, he's not, like, if you only got one trick, after a while it gets kind of old. Like, he's not going to keep using you. That's why, since God is unpredictable, why do you think, that's what I'm saying. That's why we change so much in here all the time, because we don't get stale. We can't afford to get stale, because God's unpredictable, and we have to be just as unpredictable as him. We can't be surprised when he moves. We have to expect it. We can't get caught up in the moment that, oh, God's moving. Like, you have to take advantage of that spirit. Like, when that is there and it's moving, like, you got to get into it. You got to impart it with other people. You can't just sit in the back and enjoy it and be like, yeah, this is tight. Like, no, you got to get active in it. You got to get it inside you. You got to start having that with you all the time. When you're around people that are on fire for God, it's hard to not get excited whatever they're excited about. Like, you ever meet someone who's so happy and you don't know why, but you're just like, we're not even doing anything. We're sitting on the couch, but this is tight. Like, this person is so happy to sit on the couch. I'm happy to sit on the couch, right? But if we don't have that, why do you think people aren't excited when they see us and we're doing things for God. We're doing things for the ministry, because we're not excited about it. Because our focus is, when we go out, our focus is, dang, the sun's out. It's about to be hecka hot, and only the food gets the tent. That's not fair. How am I supposed to have fun and talk to people? How's Pastor want me to talk to people, invite them to church when I'm out here sweating? Bring an umbrella. Or, I don't know, bring a fan. Do something. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Your comfort shouldn't be, the stumbling block for someone else getting God. Come on, guys. I will put myself in the most uncomfortable situation possible if God calls me to do it. And a lot of times it happens, and I'm just like, oh my God, I really thought I knew what uncomfortable was, right? Because I'm okay with doing crazy stuff. When we went to Tahoe, me and Ernest were going down these hills on the sled towards a tree, and we crashed, and then Rachel was like, do it again. I missed it. I didn't get it on video. And I was like, okay. Right? And so we did it again. And we did it 3 times, and she never got the video. Right? But I was like, whatever. I'll do it anyways. Right? But you have to have that, my vision was she's going to get the video, so we're going to do it. It doesn't matter what happens. If I crash, I break a leg, whatever, it don't matter. Video better be tight, right? We're about to bring back America's Funniest Home Videos just for that, right? But if we're not focused on what we're supposed to be focused on, you are a detriment to other people. Other people need you to stay focused, need you to pay attention, need you to have God's eyes and see things God's way. Because if you try and like lie and pretend to have God's vision on stuff, then you're trying to like force the Spirit, and it doesn't work like that. When someone needs comfort and you have God's vision on the situation, you don't have to think about what to say. God just moves through you and you say it and it comes out. And that's what's supposed to happen when someone comes to us for help. We're not supposed to be like, give me a second. Let me try and think. Let me Google it real quick. Like, what does the Bible say about, right? We can't do that. Like, it should be like, God says this. And you impart that to them. And their spirit picks up on that. And if their spirit doesn't pick up on it, it's probably because you didn't give them what they needed. It's probably because you weren't prepared. You lost what you were supposed to be paying attention to, and that opportunity ran up and hit you like a ton of bricks, and you were not ready for it. Like, you ever drive with someone who you saw the red lights from like 15 blocks away, but they didn't? I mean, I've been on both ends. So I've been the one to not see the red lights and the one to see the red lights. But you're just like, how did you not see that? Like, they were stopped and you just kept going, right? Because they were like, right? Or trying to Instagram or something, right? Because we try and distract ourselves from what we're supposed to be doing, because what we're supposed to be doing requires effort. And you got to enjoy the effort, because as weird as it sounds, some of the most like fun stuff I've ever done is like yard work. I don't know why, but I think because it's just effort, because I like feeling like I'm doing something, right? And if your walk with God isn't requiring effort out of you, you might not be walking with God. I'm just saying. Because if it's, and I'm not saying like, oh, I live a life of eternal stress and I'm like, beat up all the time and all that kind of stuff. But like, why do you do anything if it's like super easy? Either you're lazy or you understand the responsibility that comes with effort and you don't want to be responsible. Right. You need to be responsible. God called you to be responsible. There's no way around it. I'm not going to try and sugarcoat it or be nice to you or whatever. God called you to be responsible. You're here to be responsible for someone. So you need to be responsible. Your responsibility is paying attention, is focusing on God and keeping God's vision in God's eyes all the time. I can't stress that enough, because when you lose it, that's when things fail. And things fail like this. It takes forever to build things up, and in a split second they can fall apart. And you have to always be wary of that and always think about that. Because I know pastors all the time, because like I've seen it. And therefore, because I watch him, I can't not have the same mindset. I can't not think like him, because he's taught me these things. And this is what is ingrained like in my head, in my spirit, in my mind. And that's what I can't help but believe. And I can implement this outside of the church and it still works. Like, that's what's great. That's why I still do it. That's why I still believe it. Because it's not just because pastor asked me to do something in church, I have to do it or whatever. It's because it's building up a character of being a servant and being committed and staying, like, paying attention all the time. As much as I talk, I listen to people and watch what they do more than anything. And people are always astonished by how much I know about them when I barely talk to them. Because they're like, I thought you were just, over there talking, fooling around. I'm like, no, I was paying attention to you. I was distracting you with me while me paid attention to you. I was figuring out who you were, because I'm not going to let you influence me. I'm going to influence you because I know I have something good for you. Not because I want to be the person who influences everyone or wants to be the person who's like most looked at or most important. It's because I want you to have the good thing I have too. Like, that's what we have to see. That's our big picture, is you want to have someone have the good thing you have. If maybe you don't have the good thing, that's why you don't want it for them. So you need to get a hold of the good thing. You need to pay, because you pay attention, you get a hold of the good thing. And when you have that peace and you have that understanding, you have that spirit inside of you, you can't help but share it with someone. If you don't ever feel like I want to share God with someone, maybe you don't have God. Maybe you lost him. Or not maybe, you probably did. You did. It's not maybe, you did. And this is not the time to lose them. This is not the time. For your sake, for your family's sake, for everyone out there who needs what we have to stay paying attention to what's going on here, what's going on in our life, what's going on in our relationship with God. It's so, so important. And I'm serious, look up, you can Google this. I'll let you do. What does the Bible say about seeing? What does the Bible say about sight? What does the Bible say about vision? And like 95% of the Bible is listed when you Google search that. It's almost every scripture is there because God relies on our vision of us having his vision, for his vision to be carried out. Amen? All right.